everybody and welcome to our third episode of the Team Cayote Power Lab. My name is Beck and today we want to talk about charging and discharging LiPo batteries. In our first two episodes we have already introduced you the Team Cayote 2-Force X5 charger and the range of batteries, and we have also talked about battery selection for your racing classes. So if you have missed these videos, just check our YouTube channel and watch episode 1 and 2. But now let's talk a little bit about charging and discharging LiPo batteries. That sounds pretty simple and easy, and of course it is, but there are many things which you can do good or bad, or which you can do right or wrong when it comes to charging and discharging the batteries. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the basics and why it is important to have a good charger and to charge the batteries with, let's say, the correct values, with the correct treatment and all these things. Our example for today is a racing battery for 110 scale, which is a 2S LiPo battery with 7.6 volt. So this battery pack here contains two cells in this hard case. So two lithium polymer cells are stored here in this case. And now the difficulty is to charge the battery as quick as possible, that the battery can perform on its highest level, but without damaging or having a negative influence on the chemistry of the cells or on the case of the battery or anything else. So therefore it is important to know some basics and some values. Yeah, as I mentioned before, you need a good charger. We have this one here on the table, the 2-Force X5 from Team Cayote, but for sure on planet Earth there are other chargers existing which you can also use to charge your batteries. Team Cayote batteries are made for racing, so they are made for the pure performance. We are always caring about the smallest possible dimensions, the lightest battery possible, the biggest power output possible. So everything is, let's say, on the edge. And therefore we need to charge it in a proper way. First of all, you need to make sure that your charger is made for charging LiPo batteries. If you have a charger which has no program for charging a LiPo battery, then please do not charge a LiPo battery on this charger, because it can really damage the battery, it can cause a fire and can cause some really bad things to happen. The next thing I want to say before we start: always use a LiPo bag. Put your battery in a LiPo bag when charging. This LiPo bag can save your life, your house, the pit area of your racetrack, whatever. Because just in case a battery is catching fire during the charging process, this hard case will prevent the biggest flames from coming out of the battery. It just makes everything a little bit less dramatic. And before we talk about the charging, there are some more things which you always need to keep in mind. Many bad things happen because people are not handling the batteries the way they should. So, as I said before, charge in a LiPo battery. Never store a fully charged battery at home or anywhere else for a long time. It is no problem when the battery is fully charged and you have it on your table for a couple of hours, or maybe overnight, but that's the limit, because as longer the battery will stay somewhere fully charged, it will swell up, it can break the case, it can catch fire. A LiPo battery doesn't want to sit anywhere in the world fully charged without being used. Always keep this in mind. The next thing is, please never charge your LiPo battery when it's already swollen up, when the case is damaged, when you maybe damaged the battery in a crash or whatever. So when the battery doesn't look good, don't charge it anymore. It's really dangerous. Yeah, this is some safety tips before we can start. Now I feel good and we can dive a little bit deeper into the charging process. So first of all, it is important that you charge your battery in the LiPo bag, which we will do now here. I will just put one of the batteries onto my charger and then into the LiPo bag. So what is the goal now when we charge a battery? This one is now charging, and our main goal is to charge the battery, both cells in the same speed up to, let's say, the same voltage which we have set on the charger. Normally in RC racing we charge our batteries to 8.40 volt because this is the maximum allowed voltage in most of the racing series all around the world. So in case you have a high voltage battery here with 7.6 volt, you will never charge it to 8.6 volt for racing because it's not allowed. So that means high volt batteries are never get fully charged in the world of racing. So we only charge it to 8.4 volt and not to 8.6, which also means that we never charge the full capacity into the battery. So always keep this in mind when using a 7.6 racing LiPo battery pack. But what I wanted to say is that we need to adjust the charger to a value, to a charge current and to a cutoff voltage which makes sense. So if you want to charge to 8.40 volt, you need to set up your charger to 4.2 volt per cell, because the charger is charging both cells at the same time, in the same speed. And therefore it is important to set the cutoff voltage. Whenever you are at a race where the voltage is getting checked, always go to the technical inspection, use the voltmeter they have there, and compare if the 8.40 volt you have on your charger after charging is the same as at the voltmeter at the technical inspection. Because at the end of the day, the voltmeter in the technical inspection is the boss, and sometimes you need to adjust your cutoff voltage 0.01 or 0.02 volt lower or higher to reach 8.4 volt on the technical inspection. So this is something you always need to check before the race gets started. Just do it in practice or the day before the race, just to make sure that you have set everything right. Yeah, but how to set the charger? The cutoff voltage is easy, just 4.2 volt per cell. But which charging current should you use? This is the range of amps which you can select in the menu of the charger, which the charger then uses to charge your battery. The higher the amps, the faster is the charge, but also more is demanded, let's say, from the battery. If you charge your battery always with 20 amps, 30 amps or whatever crazy values, the lifetime of your battery gets reduced dramatically, and you will never have a real benefit. I know that some people around the world, especially when they're running crazy stock classes, they charge their batteries with super high amps, and they also discharge with super high amps to get the last bit of performance out of the battery. But this is something I have never done, and I also know that in our European scene where I'm racing normally, most of the people are not doing this because it's simply not allowed at the bigger races. So therefore, here's my suggestion. LiPo batteries should always be charged for racing with a current between 8 and 12 amps. In Europe, I know that 12 amps is the maximum allowed charge current at all the events. And I think this absolutely makes sense. If you charge a battery with 10 amps, let's say, it is always charged pretty quick. It's charged to the voltage you want to have it, the capacity is in, the internal resistance is low enough, so there is no need to go crazy with the charge amps on your charger. It is possible to use a higher value. Just for example, you forgot to charge your battery before you run. In 18 minutes before the run, you notice that. For sure, then you can use 20 amps to quickly fire this battery up and to get it fully charged before your race. In just a case of this, a case like this, you can do it. But I never recommend you to do this when you have time and you want to charge your battery properly. Just use 8, 10, 12 amps and you are always good. This is my rule of thumb when it comes to the charging current. Once you connect the battery to the charger and you press the starting button, the charger is starting to put the milliamps into the battery, into the cell chemistry. And when you plug the plus and minus into your battery, you also add, in the center of the battery, you also add the balancer connector. And this is the most important connector during balancing or during charging, because without the balancer, normally your charger will not charge your LiPo battery. Why do we need this balancer? Well, as I mentioned before many times, this battery has 2 cells in the case. And when the charger is charging the battery cells, it is important that they are charging at the same level of voltage, at the same speed, because we want to finish the charging process also at the same time. We want to have both cells at the same voltage. So we do not want to have one cell at 4.17 and the other at 4.23 to reach the 8.4 voltage. We don't want to have a gap in the voltage and also in the capacity of the cells. Because if that will be the case and you are racing, the worst cell, the bad cell in your pack is always the one which breaks down in the first, and which makes your good battery which turns your good battery into a bad battery. So it is super important that both cells are the same quality, same voltage, same capacity. And this is getting ensured by the balancer. The balancer in the charger is ensuring that the charging of the battery is at the same speed, at the same voltage, and up to the same level. And our 2-Force-X5 charger from Team Cayote has a balancer current of 2 amps, which is super good because the higher the amps of the balancer, the better the quality of the balancing process is, let's say. So always keep this in mind. Important for charging is the current, the cutoff voltage, and that your balancer is always connected. Before you start charging the battery, when you have connected it and when you have set your charge current, your cutoff voltage, always make sure before you press the start button and before you go away to the cafeteria to grab another coffee at a race day, always make sure that you have selected the right channel and the right charging program. It always must be the lithium polymer, the LiPo charging channel. Not for LiFe, not for nickel metal hybrid batteries, because sometimes if you charge the battery with the wrong program, let's say, normally the charger will not do it. But if the charger starts to charge the battery with the wrong program, your battery can catch fire, it can get damaged, it can, be useless afterwards. So always make sure, I know that the process that you're getting familiar with this process and you're always just connected, you press the button 3 times, the charger starts and you go away. But normally it is important to never charge your battery unattended, never leave the place, which is in real life not possible, but make sure that you have it in the LiPo bag and that your settings on the charger are correct. Then normally nothing will ever happen. I never had any problems in all these years, but this is something I really recommend you, because we are dealing with high voltage, with a lot of amps. We are having, let's say, a little bomb here in our hands because the LiPo battery, which is exploding, is very powerful and has a big flame, and we don't want to have this. But now we are in the middle of the charging process, and every good charger, so ours, is showing you some values on the display. So you normally can always see the voltage of the cell during the charging process. So you can see what the first and what the second cell and the battery is doing. Then you normally always have the chance to see the internal resistance. The value for that is milliohm. I'm not sure if this is the English word as well, but we call it milliohm. So this is something which is also important, because many racers, or everybody, wants to have the best possible punch, the best possible power in the battery. And a key fact which is responsible for having a good performing battery is the internal resistance of the cells. And when the internal resistance in the cells is low, your battery will have a good punch, a good power. So now the question is, what means low? So this charger here now is showing me during the charging process a charging internal resistance of 2.1 and 2.4 milliohm at the moment. It is charged to 70% at the moment, so the balancer is still working, the charging process is still going on, and at the end of the charge we will see that both cells will normally have almost the same internal resistance, which is important. Sometimes it can happen if your battery is not getting charged for a couple of weeks or a couple of months during winter or summer break, that the internal resistance of the cells is a little bit off balance and that it takes 2 or 3 cycles to get them back into the same rhythm, into a good window. But in general, if your internal resistance is between 1 and 3, 4 milliohms per cell, the battery should be fine. I know that some people are really picky and that they always want to see 1 point something milliohm on their display, and if not, they go crazy and they want to have a new battery. But I think it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2, you will not feel this on track, but you should always check that the internal resistance is as low as possible, and the same in both cells. This is the goal we have, and this is also where the balancing process during the charging process is playing a big role. And yeah, this is what our charger is doing in a very good way. And then you normally also see, besides the internal resistance and the voltage, you can see the capacity which is charged into the battery now. And yeah, the percentage of the charging process is also getting displayed here on the 2-Force X5 charger. These are the main things which I always try to follow when I charge my batteries. So set a charging current between 8 and 12 amps. Make sure that you have the right program. Put a battery in the LiPo bag and then just charge it to the cutoff of 4.2 volt per cell. And if you like, you can monitor what the battery is doing during charging. You can see the internal resistance, the voltage, the capacity. So this is, let's say, the pretty basic and standard process of charging a battery. And normally, if you are following these rules, you should always be fine at the racetrack, during practice, during racing, and you should always be competitive. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed the video. I normally wanted to talk about discharging as well and also about battery storage, but the video became a bit long, so I was talking. This is my weak point. So I will try to improve this for the next videos, but I still hope that you enjoyed this little excursion about LiPo charging. If you have any questions, as always, put them in the comments here below the video and we will try to answer all your questions. See you in the next video when it will be all about discharging and battery storage, before we then continue with our Power Lab series and when we talk about motors, speedos and all these settings you can do with the speed controllers. So much more stuff to come very soon. Stay tuned, follow this channel, and thanks for watching.